Hello, and welcome back to my Mix Lab. My name is Reed Stefan, realest puppet in the game, and today we're taking a closer look at one of my favorite and most commonly used plugins in my vocal chain. I'm talking about none other than Autotune. And this plugin comes with many versions, so today I decided to take a look at the most popular one, Autotune Pro. And the track that we're going to be using it on is called Teardrops, with a vocal by Kara, and it sounds like this.
Teardrops falling, yeah, but I'm okay. New vibrations that I can't explain got me thinking about all of the good things. Teardrops falling, yeah, teardrops falling, yeah.
And without autotune, it sounds like this.
Teardrops falling, yeah, but I'm okay. New vibrations that I can't explain got me.
What we realized when we played it back was that after heavy autotune, it did all these really cool flutters and things that we didn't even plan. So before I even get into this course, I wanted to show you this to open your mind as to what could be a good take and what could be a bad take with autotune. And I don't say this as an excuse for bad singing. I say this as a reason to keep your eyes open for happy mistakes, because when we put heavy autotune on this, which is what we were planning on doing anyways, listen to all these cool flutters and inflections and things that we didn't even think of.
All of the good things, teardrops falling out, teardrops falling out.
So now I would like to dive in all of the most important functions in this plugin. So the very first thing you'll notice is that I'm using it with the advanced view switched on. Normally when you open the plugin, it'll look like this and you'll see the letter that you're singing.
New vibrations that I can't explain.
But my favorite way to use autotune is advanced view, because when you use the advanced view, it gives you the option of using the set major or set minor buttons, which will turn on your piano meter down here as well. Because for me, 2 meters is better than 1. So this song is in A major, but let's switch this back to chromatic. Boom, there's our piano. And now let's set major. And this just automatically opens up a major preset without having to open it up in this top menu. I don't know why they did that, but I prefer it much more like this. So you'll always see me using Autotune Pro or any version of Autotune in advanced mode. Another great option that you have here in Autotune Pro is the option to remove notes from your scale. Maybe the singer never hits a G sharp or an F sharp.
Teardrops falling, yeah, but I'm okay.
Oops, let's try putting F sharp back in.
Teardrops falling, yeah, but I'm okay. New vibrations that I can't explain.
So that's another great reason to use advanced mode, is you now have the options to further omit notes from the scale. Even though technically a G sharp is in the A major scale, it's not in this song. So we don't need to have it in the autotune, and that will help the algorithm make better decisions. So I'm going to leave this on. Maybe at some point in the song, I might have to turn it off for a note in the verse. Every song is different, but that's a great tip to help simple melodies get auto-tuned better just by restricting the scale. The next thing I love using here on Autotune along the top is classic mode. This switches between 2 different algorithms, one that corrects the formants, which you can see here the formant options are now enabled, and this is the newer algorithm, or you can enable classic mode, which is from the very famous Autotune 5. Before there was any formant correction, it was just pitch correction by itself. That became a very famous sound. It was a little extra computery, but that was usually what people liked about it, and I love that they gave it back to you as an option here in Autotune Pro. You'll also always see me preferring to use the classic mode as well, unless I'm doing some fancy formant shifting. Let's turn it on and see what we can do. And let's shift the formants with the throat knob.
Teardrops falling over, I'm okay. New
Hey.
vibrations that I can't explain got me thinking about all of the good things. Teardrops falling out, teardrops falling out.
That's a lot of fun. And as you can imagine, I'll be automating that knob. Next, we have the transpose knob, which is great where if you wanted to hear your vocal in a different key or maybe a whole octave up,
Teardrops falling out, but I'm okay. No vibrations that I can't explain.
and of course you have a fine detune. And then finally here you have the tracking knob. Now this is a very mysterious knob. Tracking specifically refers to how much background noise is in the signal mixed in with the vocal. Are you using Autotune in the studio where it's quiet behind you, where you'd want a low tracking value, or are you on stage or singing live where there's other instruments maybe bleeding into the mic where you'd want a high tracking value? This is going to help the algorithm just determine what's your voice and what's background noise and help it be more selective that way. So this is a very secretive knob that a lot of people don't know what it does and they just leave it in the default position. But actually, the very famous Autotune 5 default position was a low tracking value of about 25. So in Autotune Pro, you turn that up. In the older one, you used to turn it down. So 25 is actually a great default position to leave it at. Even though it's not the plugin default position, I don't think anyone's studio recordings are going to be having this much noise. So another great tip is turn the tracking value up if you have clean studio recordings, and then choose a higher number if you're maybe on stage or somewhere with a lot of bleed. So that's the top row. And obviously graph mode, we're going to get into later because I'm actually going to save the best for last. So let's jump down to the main knobs. We have retune speed, flex tune, natural vibrato, and humanize. And they all sound very similar, but they do 4 slightly different things. Let's jump forward to a different part in the song and take a listen to retune speed to fix the sharpness or flatness of the sound. So let's take a listen to it all the way up, and this is going to be the most extreme effect. Oh, sorry, let me just turn classic mode back on so we don't have our format correction. And now let's turn it down to a slow speed. So as you can see, it's letting in some of that error back in. Now, in a lot of songs, that's actually going to help it sound better. In this song, because of the performance, it's going to make it sound worse because it wasn't so close to the target note that we wanted it to. But like I said at the beginning, that actually created some really happy accidents that we ended up loving and keeping and wanting to have more of in the song. Another thing to consider when you're adjusting your retune speed is how this affects your vibrato. If your vocal is not close, it's probably going to be adding a lot of vibrato that you didn't intend, which is what you heard in this case. And if your vocal is very close and you had a lot of vibrato intentionally, this might accidentally flatten that out. So use this with caution when you're tuning singing with vibrato, because this could take it out and you might actually want to keep it. So that's the retune speed knob, probably the one knob you're going to be adjusting the most often or automating the most as you go. Next, we have flex tune. So now, speaking of vibrato, there are a lot of other vocal inflections that could be intentional and be detuned. For example, letting the singing of a note kind of fall off at the end of it, like, may not go well through Autotune, which is where flex tune comes in. So this preserves the singer's expressions and vocal gestures while still correcting the retune speed. It just simply applies it as it's approaching the correct note, not as it's falling away. So flex tune is really here to help you preserve some of the character in the tail end of your words. Let's try turning it up and down and see if we can hear a difference.
I don't wipe on my way.
Let's turn it all the way up.
Feelings coming in waves, and I just can't help it. The color's so pure. Now I know there's something that I'm here for.
The flex tune at 100%, it's really slow, almost to the point where it doesn't even let the retune speed work. But when you have it somewhere in the middle, a lot of the times you can kind of preserve the transitions between notes that would have originally been changed too much by the autotune. Flex tune is a really great option to help hide your autotune. You're not always trying to be extreme. Like this song, we were trying to be extreme. We wanted the autotune to be the most in-your-face effect in the whole vocal chain. So obviously we're running it really high in the released version of this song. That's flex tune, another great way to help hide it or make it more subtle if you choose to. The next knob we have here is natural vibrato. Now, like I was saying earlier, some vocal performances naturally quiver sharp and flat intentionally to create a vibrato effect. It makes the ends of notes sound interesting. So now here's a knob to either enhance or diminish it. That's what the natural vibrato knob is here for. And also you have the option to create some vibrato. Now this is a really cool option to take a long note and make it kind of wobbly. Let's go find a long note like down here in the background vocals at the end of the song. Let's get these.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
Let's grab the auto tune on this background vocal and let's try doing a little vibrato sine wave. The rate all looks good. Let's just try turning the pitch amount up a little bit.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
You hear that? So the pitch amount is a great knob to automate for where you want vibrato in just a little spot. And you could speed it up with the rate knob. You can even have it do volume tremolo, I guess you could say, or formant vibrato, I guess you could call it, where it formants the quiver amount, I guess. So that's a really cool. So these are really cool ways to create a custom vibrato, or like I said, just enhance or decrease what's already in the performance. But because all of this singing is pretty straight notes, we would have to be using this section down here. And then finally, we have humanize. Now this function allows you to add realism to sustain notes when using fast retune speeds. So FlexTune kind of controls how it acts around note transitions, and this controls how it acts during long sustained notes. So if you want to stay perfectly snapped to your retune speed during the long notes, leave your humanize at 0. If you want to have the long notes get a little bit more variation to them, maybe turning humanize up is a good thing. Let's try seeing what it does on this long note.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay. Teardrops falling, but I'm okay. Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
You can see how it falls a little bit more back to the center during the long note when I had humanize up, and then when I had humanize down, it was working hard the whole time, making much harsher adjustments. So humanize is how you affect the center of your long notes, and FlexTune is how you affect the transition between notes. So 4 very similar controls, I guess if you include this, 5 very similar controls to affect the pitch of your vocal. That's everything that you're going to need to know to dial in your vocal tuning to perfection. Finally, let's take a look at graph mode. One of my favorite ways to use graph mode is to use it to create harmonies. This is where Autotune kind of becomes manual tune. So let's try and run this long extended note that we were just listening to, and let's import the pitch and time.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay. Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
So now I'm going to click on make notes, and that gives me some MIDI notes to do. And this song is in A, so I'm going to grab all my notes and I'm going to drag them down to A. So everything that isn't in A is going to be. You're about to see we took this melody and completely flattened it out to one note. After I'm done just moving all these up. Actually, you know what? That one was already on an A. Let's just leave it down where it was. And let's just move up this one. So now we have this.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
Hey.
Teardrops falling, but I'm okay.
Awesome. So we just created an artificial harmony. Let's blend that in with the mix and see how we like it at maybe a slightly lower volume than the natural voice. This is a great way to go in and fix just one note at a time too. You don't have to do an extreme adjustment like I did where I took all the notes and made them some completely other note. I wanted to do an extreme example just so you could really hear what it was doing. The magic of Autotune Pro graph mode is really the ability to import the whole vocal and then just correct a couple syllables. That way you don't have to make a whole separate track and put more Autotune on that track and try and fix that syllable any other way. This is just a great way to go in and treat or spot fix, I would say, little parts of it rather than going and overhauling a whole take. So that's my favorite way to use graph mode and all the other features inside of Autotune Pro. My name is Reed Stefan, realest puppet in the game, and I'll catch you guys next time in another My Mix Lab tutorial. Peace out.